Hey everybody, Eric Switzer here for The Gamer, here with another episode of Your Favorite Game with our co-hosts, Your Favorite Gamers, George Foster.
Hello.
And The Gamer's Editor-in-Chief, Stacey Henley.
Hello, hello.
Today's topic, we are discussing your favorite games with underwater levels. And I know what you're thinking. Why? A universally reviled mechanic. The underwater level turns any game into a slow, tedious slog where you can die simply by existing. But hopefully, as we'll discover with, just as we did with our escort mission episode, sometimes water levels are good, actually. Everyone's
Indeed
excited.
Yeah. No,
Was this a struggle for anyone?
Not at all. I had my top pick was pretty easy.
Yeah.
And then I had a few others that I could discuss. I don't mind it on a water level. I think sometimes, as we'll get to, you need to broaden your horizons as to what an underwater level is.
Yes. Okay. I think this is definitely one that you can be a little, as I like to say, this is definitely one you can be a little bit cute with.
Yeah.
You can definitely think outside the box on this one. We will get into all of these. I had a list of bad ones and I had a list of good ones, and the good ones was much longer than the list of bad ones. But of course, it's the bad ones that people think of first.
Yes.
I'm sure we'll get to them.
Yeah, we'll get to them. But we're not here to talk about our least favorite games with water levels. We're here to talk about our favorite games with water levels. So, George, why don't you start us off this week?
Okay. My favorite game with underwater levels is Rayman Legends. This is super easy. Yeah, I was going to say, I knew this wasn't going to be a surprise to anyone. But the level 20,000 Lums Under the Sea is just fantastic. And I think the reason it sticks out to me, because I had a really hard time picking between this and Rayman Origins has an underwater level as well. And that one I like as well quite a lot, especially the music. Like, that really stuck with me. But the reason I'm going with Legends is just because it subverts your expectations. So you go into the level and straight away it's the same kind of vibe as the one in Origins. So it's like bright and colourful. It's the same music as well. So I remember going in like, oh my god, we're getting another one like that. So cool. And then you go further underwater. And I'll add as well, one of the problems people have with underwater sections is they make you slower. Yeah. You're worried about drowning. You know, it's a pain to move. You usually have less moves. That's not the case in Rayman. So you're still fast. You still move. You don't have to worry about air. So it's got none of the trappings of an underwater level anyway. So basically it's just a different environment and you move a little bit differently.
For everyone out there that isn't familiar, which is probably most people.
No.
I think so. Why don't you actually describe what the level is? What's the vibe?
Okay. I hate that sentiment though. We'll get back to that.
People don't know why that Rayman is not the most universally played game in existence.
We'll move on before I get irate. Anyway, so you're going underwater, beautiful setting. You're like, okay, I'm in for another cool one water level, probably nothing too dramatic. The further you go down, it gets dark, the music changes, it's like, well, this sounds kind of like James Bondy. And the twist is that this underwater level is actually like a spy-themed level.
Oh,
so you're
James
swimming
Pond.
underneath a facility. Yeah, kind of like James Pond. So you're swimming under a facility.
Pond with a P.
Yeah.
And then, pond.
Right.
Like the fish. Yeah. Anyway.
Let the man speak.
Oh, man. Yeah, this is disrespect to Rayman and me.
I love Rayman Legends.
I do too.
Yeah. So you swim under, and then all of a sudden it switches from the same kind of water level, which is great as well, but it's also got like stealth mechanics to it, so it's more interesting. And then you mix that in with like more traditional platforming through like this base, and there's just like spy music everywhere. And I just remember being really surprised by it. I think Rayman Legends is a game that's consistently surprising with everything it does.
Yes.
But I'd say that's the most surprising moment, like besides the music levels, because
the music levels are brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know we're not here to talk about that, but
well, we will one day when we do music levels. That'll be straight up there. But yeah, it just stuck out. It's just a very cool subversion that still has fun with the underwater setting.
The one thing gamers like more than underwater levels: stealth sections.
Yeah.
Together
it's
at
Rayman
last.
though. It's Rayman though. It does it well. It does it with a
It
smile on
does
its
do
face.
well. There's a good pick.
Yep.
Mhm.
A pretty literal interpretation of the underwater level, which I'm glad we started there. You did mention, I know we were talking about the music levels, but you did mention the music in this level, and I think that is one of the hallmarks of a good water level is the vibey music.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's called Sea of Serendipity in Origins,
Okay.
and that's the track name.
Mhm.
And it's a very played song on my Spotify, so go listen to it. I hope
Yeah.
some
I'm
editor will
not
play it
gonna do
now.
that.
That would be cool.
Water levels, especially a lot of the ones we'll talk about today, often have very atmospheric. Everything kind of
Yes.
slows down. Often bossa nova for some reason, but that's what it sounds like underwater, or otherwise like steel drum tropical
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very tropical in Rayman. It's very
Beachy.
beachy.
yeah, beachy. Yeah,
Yeah,
beachy's the
which
word.
is always a vibe.
Beachy keen.
All
That's
right,
what Rayman makes
I'm gonna
me.
be completely honest. I don't remember this level at all. I can't even picture it. I mean,
Stace, you remember this one, right?
When you started talking about it, I actually was. I said, "Oh, the orange one is better." I think I was thinking of a different one, but then when you started describing the stealth sections, I remembered it. Yeah, I do. I think it's a cool level. You kind of climb. It's like a snake and up it, isn't it? At one point.
Yeah.
It's a
And
little
then you've
bit
got
like the kind of the Sonic levels. We have to kind of swim along. People are not watching this in video. I'm kind of doing a snake movement with me
Yeah.
hands.
doing a swimmy thing.
But it's like it's not pipes, but there's like a system of bends and little coves underwater, little rock pools and stuff underwater.
Yeah,
you've
you're
got to
being
swim
like
through. And
there's
some of them
like
are in
security
shadows. And some of them glow
cameras.
red, I think. Is there like
Yes,
red
exactly.
lights?
Yeah. And then at the end, my memory's failing me a little bit, but I remember that there's like an escape sequence, like you trigger the alarms and you escape in, and then explosions, like typical James Bond fashion, but with a Rayman skin over it, and then you get to the top, and there's like a little floating tropical island, like a little floater.
Little
Very cool.
floater.
Everything Rayman does is great.
Cute.
I'm gonna have to limit myself to not talk
Yeah.
about it every time.
Is
This
that
was a good
so? There's
start.
only one water level in each of the Rayman games.
It's like this one has like it's like a chapter almost. I
Uh-huh.
think it's split between 5 levels. Like it has been a while, but in Origins it's more like a section of a specific world. So there's like 2 or 3 levels.
Okay.
Those are good as well, but I think they're very traditional water levels. Is not
I think
besides
I
the
was
music.
thinking the two
they're
different
traditional.
Origins ones when you said Legends.
Yeah. And there's one that's like
better.
dark in the water. That one is definitely not my pick. That one sucks.
Yeah. Rayman is like kind of feels like the original answer to Mario. Like I know Crash was advertised that way, but Crash is
They're quite different games.
quite different. Whereas Rayman is like, let's update, classic 2D Mario.
And do it
Yes.
better. What? Oh, did I say that?
And
Did I say it does it better than Mario?
Mar-
I did.
well,
I said it again.
if we're talking about underwater levels, for sure, right? Because Mario's
they're
underwater
terrible.
levels set the
Yeah, they
model
are
for
bad.
what everyone hates.
That is the one
awful.
everyone's going to think of when we say underwater levels.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's enough about my Rayman.
Actually,
though.
the
Eric,
ones in this isn't my pick, but the underwater level in Odyssey is good.
which one's the underwater level in Odyssey?
It's there's the little clam people and there's little domes. Similar
like
to,
Astro.
in Astro,
Yes.
another
Oh
water
my
level. I'm not going
God.
to speak about it, but I like. There's a little kind of gravity domes where you can still walk. You get something for Peach's wedding day because that's what all of Odyssey is about.
I do remember now. That is a cool one.
And
And you can do the
I didn't
fishing.
really look into that one because I knew I wasn't going to talk about it. But that is a much better version of a Mario water level than the Mario 64 thing that we're all thinking of.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay, cool. Stacey, what's your favorite game with underwater levels?
So my favorite game with underwater levels is Tomb Raider. Pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love Tomb Raider.
Everyone's on brand
think
today.
I hate Tomb Raider because I sometimes mildly criticize the release schedule or the way in which the games are built. But I really love Tomb Raider. I love everything about it, including all of its flaws. My problem was picking which Tomb Raider.
Right.
Because I went through and I could think of 5 different Tomb Raider things, 4 from different games that I really love. Tomb Raider, I think, is one of the classic archetypes you think of when we think of underwater levels. I went for the England level of Legend, partially because Legend is my favorite of all the Tomb Raiders.
Good choice.
And also because I felt it was probably the most, with the exception of one, the most different of all the kind of classic Tomb Raider underwater levels. So I'll start with that, and then I'll go off on a tangent on the ones that I didn't pick, because I could have picked a lot of Tomb Raider ones. So in England, you are looking for King Arthur's sword or grave. King Arthur.
Yeah.
I think both. I guess.
The sword is in the grave.
Yes. But the crypt, that's what I'm looking for. But it's under a system of sewers. So part of it is this very modern, it's set in Cornwall, but it feels like London when you're underwater. It's got that kind of classic Victorian sewers vibe. So it feels quite modern, certainly by in terms of King Arthur standards, Victorian stuff. That kind of industrial British, lots of jumping from platform to platform. You kind of dip into the water briefly to open up a lever, and then you can fly through or swim through. So there's lots of stopping and starting and kind of this traditional action platforming that I really love from Tomb Raider that I think Legend does better than any of them. But then as you get further through, more of the mystical elements come into play. We get closer to the Arthurian tomb, and we get mythical beasts that you have to fight. It's a Hydra, I think. And there's different sorts of elements that make it feel more like a fantastical Tomb Raider game that maybe the original era did really well. So the fact that it's not swim, come up for air, solve a puzzle, which some of the Tomb Raider ones are, some which I still think do that quite well. It takes the kind of, you're going to be in a sewer, you're going to be swimming. By the time Legend came out, Legend was this, off the top of my head, I want to say 6th. Yeah, the 6th Tomb Raider game. You knew the deal. You knew what underwater level was in Tomb Raider. And you'd already previously in the game played the Peru level, which is a flashback, and which is a normal underwater level, which I nearly picked. That's a great underwater level. It's very traditional in terms of how Tomb Raider levels work. The very first level, the very first Tomb Raider, has an underwater section. Been a staple in the game since the very beginning. And this, you play it thinking, okay, swimming around it. And actually, it uses the water, not in a kind of, if you jump in the water, you're dead kind of way, but as a complement to the platforming going on around you, that the water feels part of the level as opposed to the sometimes immersion breaking of, we are taking you away from the game to have an underwater bit, because this lets us show off that we can do swimming and we can put that in an advert. It doesn't feel as tropey as that. Because that's what games used to do. Games didn't used to show you like high fidelity graphics and ray trace, and they used to say like, look, you can swim, you can jump in this one. That's what adverts used to be for games. So I really love the England level. It's actually not one of my favorites of Legend. If I was ranking all the Legend levels, probably be in the middle. But the way it does underwater, when I started thinking of underwater, I was never going to pick anything other than Tomb Raider. And I found that one really, really, I guess, fascinating in the way it uses underwater stuff. I don't know if either of you have played Legend. I'm waffling on a lot.
It's been a while.
I haven't.
Legend is my favourite, definitely.
Before we did this, I always like to think what you two are going to pick, and then end up usually quite surprised. Stace, I knew straight away, I was like, going to be Tomb Raider. Yeah. But I am very surprised it wasn't Underworld.
I had Underworld. I had the sea in Underworld is a really cool one. That's probably the most expansive water level, and that came out, that was 2 years after, certainly the entry after Legend, so they're all of the same anniversary. Legend and Underworld are all part of the same era, which is going to meet up with the survival era when we get a new game.
Yeah, one day, maybe.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Been 7 years and counting at this point, so
I don't know, maybe
when we get a new one. Apparently they're making one. Yeah, I love the section of Underworld. I did consider talking about that. It's kind of on my list of other Tomb Raider games to discuss. I think Underworld is very cool. It's a more, not traditional water level in the sense of it's samey, because it was, like I say, much bigger than a lot of other ones that I'd played in Tomb Raider. A lot of Tomb Raider underwater levels are either little swimming pools or quite specific. Tomb Raider 2 has obviously the submarine. That's the famous one. She's in the wetsuit and she's climbing up the grid. That's another one that I think everyone will think of. It's certainly the first one I think of as any underwater level. It's probably not as ubiquitous as Zelda or Mario, but I think it's a real classic.
No, Tomb Raider for me did come into my head. I'm not even as big a fan.
Never sure how biased I am about it. But yeah, 2's got a fantastic one. One I want to touch on briefly, though, if you will indulge further, Tomb Raider.
Absolutely.
I would like to, and it's rare that I do this, I would like to briefly defend Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
No! I'm not into this. That game I hate.
Shadow is definitely my least favorite of the Survivor Trust. Call it Survival before the Survivor trilogy. By quite, I think rises up there with the great Tomb Raiders. Also, pretty controversial to say. Tomb Raider 2013. It's good. It's a good game. Enjoy it. Whatever. Shadow gets it doesn't get a bad rap because I do think part of it stinks. It's bad. But there are 2 underwater sections, and one of them I think is a little bit of a cute interpretation that I think are phenomenal. The first one, which you could also do a little bit in Rise, but it's better in Shadow, is when you swim under the piers and there's just like a guard around, and you can rise up out of the water with your pickaxe and slam them in the skull.
Love that.
And pull them underwater, like Apocalypse Now style. That's really cool. That's by far the best set piece in the game. Not really underwater level, because Tomb Raider is a big open world map. It's just kind of a bit where you can swim, but a very cool use of water. The other one is the pirate ship tomb. Now, Tomb Raider uses ship tombs a lot in the trilogy because they're all set on islands. I think, again, controversial, I think Shadow could stake a claim at having the best tombs in any Tomb Raider game. Nothing else about Shadow, I think, works. The individual tombs, the Curse of the Monkey God, the one where you climb and it spins things, I can't remember what one's called, and the pirate ship, I think, collectively boosted certainly above the other 2 in the Survivor trilogy and above a lot of other games that get a lot of credit as individual tomb exercises. Now, it's a bit different with some games because Tomb Raider 1 is just a series of tombs over and over and over again. The modern games have you going in and out. Anyway, the pirate ship one, it's underwater in the sense that you're in a cave, there is some water, but the pirate ships kind of run aground. Most of the time, you are climbing up the galleon, you are going on the crow's nest, you are burning down bits of the flag. I always liked in the new games when the tombs were active parts of the map. I've said before that I'm not sure about Tomb Raider's future as a Tomb Raider, because I don't know how long they can keep trying to tell this meaningful, harrowing story of a tragic English aristocrat who steals artifacts. I don't know how long they can continue to square that if they want to make her this really relatable human person, if they want to move her away from the kind of cool stylishness of the original games. So I'm not sure if the new game has tombs, how it's going to work. I think if they're going to keep it, the best way to do it is to not have her actively looking. Like, the whole plot of Shadow starts... It's a long time about Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I apologize to literally everybody else in the world.
I'm shocked. I can't believe we're here right
now. Shadow of the Tomb Raider starts because Lara's in a tomb and she picks up a haunted knife and then a curse happens. And you think, well, Trinity, we're going to get it. Sure. The point is she steals these haunted things and then horrible stuff happens. Like, stop stealing stuff. Anyway, I like when the tombs are very specific. Like, I found a pirate ship in a cave. Well, of course I'm going to climb that because that's cool. I like when they are like that. And Shadow's tomb, it's underwater because you have to swim through a cave to get there, and it's a shipwreck. There's inherently some water stuff. Some of the stuff is sunk, but it's not a true underwater level like the rest of them. However, no one ever says anything nice about Shadow, and they probably shouldn't. But the tombs are great, and I just wanted to put that out there. But my actual pick was Legend, which is the best Tomb Raider game. And you should play it, but also they shouldn't remake it because they should make new games, and I want to be consistent on that issue, as much as I would like it. Stop remaking old games. Stop making new games. Eric, what is your favorite game?
Wait. I have Tomb Raider thoughts. All of my Tomb Raider water memories are all traumatizing.
She drowns a lot. There
is, I'm pretty sure this is Tomb Raider 1, but I can only describe the scenario, so maybe it'll ring a bell. But it's a platforming section in a vertical chamber where you are making very precise jumps.
2 minute one. It's the first level 2 minute one.
Yeah, jump and grab, and every time you miss, you fall into the water below.
In the pool below, and if you hold onto the ledge for too long, it crumbles, and you've got to make the next jump even further.
I hate it so much.
Yeah,
Actually,
that's
I do remember
It's
that.
terrible.
I must have been.
It's in the first level of Tomb Raider 1.
Okay, that's as far as I got in Tomb Raider 1 when I was 8 years old. So that makes sense.
I think that's is that a secret area? Do you need to do that bit? I know the bit you mean though, exactly. And yeah, it's not good.
It's horrible.
It's no better than the new one.
I still remember the one that sticks out to me, and this is from recently replaying it. It's like a canal. I think that's 1 or maybe 2. Like
when
it's
you're on a speedboat in Venice.
I don't know if there's a speedboat. I think it's you can hop between like some of the poles, and you got to turn some things, and then you're going through. Maybe it is Venice. I don't know, but it sucks. I did not like that.
But I can remember that being on the speedboat. I played that recently because I reviewed it. I can't remember hopping between poles, but maybe you're not describing it as I'm imagining it. Maybe
I think it's probably my description abilities, but honestly, Tomb Raider came to mind for me quite quickly as well, but also in terms of like bad water levels, because some of them are they're tough. I think is probably what sticks out. Tomb Raider has especially the original games, has a notorious amount of difficulty, and water for me comes into like all of them.
Shadow also has that part with the little raft on the river that's like moving fast, and you have to use the grappling hook to get on the raft and pull. Oh yeah, the bow and the rope, and pull yourself to the next section, and it's very annoying. It's very tedious.
That's Shadow for you.
Yeah, that's Shadow.
There are parts of Shadow that are very annoying, but it's also the only modern Tomb Raider with a photo mode. So
well, there you go.
That's the only reason I bothered to replay.
I do remember
that. I actually booted up. This is now just a complete tangent, but I booted up Rise a while ago, and I was thinking, haven't done a photo mode game in a while. I'll do Rise, and it didn't have a photo mode. And I was like, okay, let's delete that. Let's install Shadow.
No, oh my god.
Oh my god.
I was pumped to play Rise again. I had to settle for Shadow, and I'm still coming at the other end of defending it. We don't discuss before on what games we're going to pick, but I think with this one, I was always going to pick.
You're both very on brand today.
Yes.
And I think I am too. We'll see. So are we done with Shadow of the Tomb Raider?
We are. I tried to move us on even faster. I'm glad you had thoughts, and I just didn't want to clog up the airwaves.
Okay. Then in that case, my favorite game with underwater levels is Shadow of the Colossus.
Okay. Oh, the switcheroo also makes more sense than Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
That would have been wild if I said Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
I thought you were going to say Shadow of the Hedgehog.
And then we did 20 more minutes on Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
I like a different puzzle. Why Shadow of the Colossus?
Shadow of the Colossus, yeah. So there are 2 water monsters in Shadow of the Colossus. There's Hydrus, which is the serpent. It's got the big electric nodes on its back. And then there's Pelagia, which is kind of, I think, one of the mascot monsters, but he's sort of an amphibian, big beastie guy. He's standing in water, but of course he's so large that you have to swim to get to him, to get up on his back. And he's kind of a frog guy with the crown.
Yeah, when you said the amphibian thing, I didn't recognize it from the name at all.
Yeah,
but I know what you mean now.
That fight's really cool because you have to get on his head, and he's hit a piece of his crown, and whichever side of the crown you hit, he turns and moves that direction. You're trying to get him over to the tall platform so you can jump off. And anyway, cool fight. I think the word that comes to mind when I think about the Shadow of the Colossus boss fights is thalassophobia, which is the fear of big, dark water. And I think this game does such a great job of tapping into what is so terrifying about water. A lot of our examples, especially Rayman, and I think Tomb Raider too. Like Tomb Raider captures the danger of I can't be underwater for very long, you know.
Yeah.
But Shadow of the Colossus is very much about the mystery of water.
Yeah.
Not
Tomb
knowing
Raider is very
what's
rarely
below.
in open water.
Yes.
Tomb Raider most of the time is in either swimming pools or very specific like natural formations or even lakes.
Yeah.
Just like occasionally there's like an eel or something in there, but you're right, it does not harbor that kind of dread of the unknown.
Yes, the dread of open water. And that first fight with Hydrus, the serpent one, is in a sea. I mean, that arena is just a massive, massive lake that's infinitely deep. You can't see the bottom of it. And there are so many moments. Essentially, anytime that you're not latched on to Hydrus, you're at the whim of the water. You know, it's coming up and coming down and creating waves and moving you around, and you can't move very fast. You're just like struggling to get anywhere to line yourself up with the monster for when he emerges. And it does such a good job of capturing why people are scared of water. And there's so many cool moments in that fight when you get a few hits on him. So the fight is basically he will come up out of the water, and as he's diving back down, you have to get to his tail and grab onto it. And then he skims across the top of the water, this big long snake, and he's got these big electric nodes on his back, and you have to basically walk all the way to his head without getting electrocuted. And then you can get some hits on him at the front. After you get a few hits on him, he will dive, and your instinct is to grab onto him, right? So that you don't lose you got a good position. You don't want to have to walk all the way, start over, right? But he dives so deep for so long that at a certain point you have to either let go or drown. Like you'll understand that if I don't let go and start swimming back up, I'm going to drown down here. And that's exactly what you understand what the monster's trying to do, right? So cool. Such a scary fight. That's, I think, like on paper there's not much to it. It's just like walk up the snake, hit him in the head. But the water adds so much to it. The use
of water, water's part, not just in water. I think, you said about being on brand. The way you describe that, because I wouldn't say necessarily Shadow of the Colossus is your brand, because it's old and there hasn't been a sequel, and it's not something we talk about a lot. That sounds like how you would describe a Monster Hunter fight, which would be very on brand.
Yes.
That you can see that kind of history of going up to big things that you are too small for and hitting them over and over again with a weapon.
I do have some Monster Hunter thoughts too. Once we're done with all this. Pelagia, also an underwater fight, but like I was saying before, he's not underwater. He's just standing. To him, it's a puddle. It's a puddle, which is a really cool dynamic too, right? Because to you, like, he's stomping around, and that his weakness is on his belly, and there's like a bunch of steps to get to that. But you discover his weakness by swimming under him, which is a very dangerous place to be for a monster that's stomping around in water. And a lot of Shadow of the Colossus is don't get under this monster's feet, but there's a big difference between running out of the way and swimming out of the way. Super scary fights, super tense fights. Some of the coolest ones in that game, I think. And I just love that it feels like let's not just do a water level for the sake of variety. Let's explore what water means to people, like what people are afraid of, how water can change a fight. I think that's really cool.
And I think having two of them that both use water to essentially kill you in different ways, because the first one is a very traditional, I suppose, use of water in that it drowns you, but it's also atypical in that only happens if you cling. You're essentially choosing to dive with it. And then the second one, the stomping around, that's a pretty normal way in Shadow of the Colossus, that you get damaged, you get killed. But because you have to swim away from it, it makes it more precarious for you. Rather than you're changing the how the boss approaches things. And I think the 3 different water levels that we pick, I guess 10 of you picked 2, and I picked about 17 when I talked about all the 2 minute ones. But they all use like the idea of water in really different ways. I think is cool. They're not just kind of, we've gone for the underwater theme. George's is probably as closest to that traditional underwater. Like this is a thing, which is I was only ever going to pick 2 minute, but I do have some other ones like that. I really love that use of water. And it's funny that like a lot of modern games have that thalassophobia filter now. Like, there's like, if you're afraid of water, you can still play our game and we'll somehow make the water less scary. Actually, I've never looked at how they work. 'Cause
I didn't know that was a
never
thing.
been
Is
tempted.
that a thing?
Yeah, in Horizon not Zero Dawn, Forbidden West, obviously you could swim. Decent underwater level is never going to pick it, but it's a kind of a fun little swim through underwater Vegas. People didn't like it; was too scary. I can't remember why.
I think they make it so
that?
you can't get attacked in the water.
Is that what it is? That's not really Thassophobia mode, as it's supposed to, like
Water
Cupcake
coward
Princess.
mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. But no, I think it's interesting. Like, I don't know. I don't like reading too much into games. Used to do this, and now they do something different. But the idea that everything in that game tells you you're supposed to hang on to the beast,
Right.
you're kind of and then you are punished for doing the right thing.
Right.
I don't know how many games do that these days.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things like that in Shadow Colossus you can point to where it feels like lost art, you know. It's like antiquated, but it's like, wow, look how much sensibilities have shifted in game design since, you know, Shadow. So
I love a fail state.
Cool game.
I love doing something that isn't always going to be the right thing. I think that's more interesting. I love something that won't work.
Interesting detail about both of these monsters. So in anytime you want in Shadow of the Colossus, you can go back to the corpse of one of the Colossi and redo that fight. These two, when Hydrus dies, the body sinks. There's a cutscene. It sinks. And when you go back, the snake is floating on the surface. Same with Pelagia. They change. The other monsters just collapse and die where they are. But these two, when you come back later, their body is conveniently positioned so that you can access it. Okay, we have so many more. Let's start. Okay, there's no reason to start here besides that I want to. Can we talk about Crash Warped?
Now that's funny because I've got that on my list. That was my second pick, so I was going to suggest we go to that at some point. So yes. Let's go to Crash Warped.
Let's talk about Crash Warped. Crash Warped has
Crash 3 warped in European regions.
Yes, the third Crash game I think does it 3. I think there's 3 of them.
Yeah, and there's also the jet ski level.
And the jet
underwater.
Yeah. And Coco's jet skis, but there's 3 versions of this underwater level where Crash gets scuba gear, and it's a side scroller.
Yep.
And it's really hard.
We are not celebrating these levels, right? Please tell me
they're great.
Oh
they're great, George.
Excellent. And you dive forward when the electric things spin, and you've got to dive past the eels, and the eel gets you, and he's got his heart boxes
The only way they are made worse is in Wrath of Cortex when you have the submarine as well. Either way,
I'm not talking about Wrath of Cortex.
Bad, all bad. No,
I think they're great.
I'm in the minority here. I'm apparently wrong, but I'm shocked by this.
I don't think I could pick. I'm sure George is going to now say one. I'm going to go, yeah, fine. But I don't think I could pick a type of level in Crash 3 that I think is bad. There might be some poorer executions of the theme, but every single thing that Crash 3 does, I think is excellent. I think it is the best platformer ever made because of the variety, because of the range of things that it does.
It's real good.
When Astro Bot came out and people were saying it's the best thing since Odyssey, I was like, I am measuring this actually against Crash 3. That's my yardstick for platform. I think it's excellent. The underwater levels are a brilliant part of that. They're some of my favorites. There's another type of underwater level in Crash 3 because there is Tomb Wader, which is technically an underwater level.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you have to not be underwater.
Not be underwater, yeah.
Yeah, I prefer that.
You die.
There's Scuba Crash.
There's blowfish that you can, when they're small, you can spin them and kill them. And when they blow up, if you touch them, Crash blows up and explodes, which is very fun. George is still not impressed.
No, I know exactly what you mean.
Gun. You can drive on like an underwater jet ski and you can shoot things.
Yeah.
I just remember these being painful. Like, I love Crash from the bottom of my heart, but not from the bottom of the sea, unfortunately.
Yes, he gets a little water scooter, like another one of my childhood favorites, Ape Escape, which also does the underwater level. George, the Ape Escape doesn't.
I like Ape Escape. I'm just struggling to remember. My memories of that are strictly like the first level and then the controls.
Playing it in Astrobot.
Yeah, and then Astrobot. which made me happy. But yeah, I'm struggling to remember.
Yes, he has a little
cool ones.
hand underwater scooter. You can shoot nets out of the front of it to catch
cool.
swimming apes. Okay. 3, we're going to rank. We're doing a little ranking. Blind rank. Jolly Roger Bay, Dire Dire Docks, Wet Dry World. The 3 Mario 64 water levels.
That's not a blind ranking. That's
Well, it's not a blind ranking.
2020.
You didn't know we were ranking them, I guess.
Oh, right. A surprise ranking.
Surprise ranking's what I meant.
Dire's first, right?
Dire Dire Docks is your number 1?
Yeah, I think so.
Which is the one with the red snake? I wouldn't know them by the titles.
That's Dire Docks, right? With
That's
the red
worst
snake.
one. There we go.
Oh, but the music's so good.
I don't listen to the Rayman soundtrack on Spotify, so I couldn't possibly pass.
You're missing
on the
out.
music.
It's so good.
All right, we're not as plugged into the Mario 64 worlds as I thought we were going to be. Never mind.
Go on then, Eric. What would be your blind ranking that's definitely not going to be blind?
Dire Dire Docks is the worst one.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's Jolly Roger.
Unfair.
Jolly Roger Bay is the best, and Wet Dry World barely counts.
Jolly Roger. It's the accent. I heard you say Jolly Rancher, and I was thinking of like a
Like the
cowboy
candy?
level that was under. Well, no, I thought that was the joke, but I was thinking of like a cowboy level that was underwater, and I was thinking,
Jolly
yes.
Roger Bay.
I do remember that. I don't know if I remember the one you said was first, but I do like the pirate one, so I'm going to put it first.
Mario Kart 8 has 2 water tracks that are some of the best. Dolphin Shoals and Water Park.
Dolphin Shoals is cool.
Crash Team Racing has an underwater level. Crash Team Racing is better than Mario.
Yeah,
True.
Ripperoo's Pipes.
Oh, Under the Pipes. That is a really good one as well.
I do like
I
that
can't
one.
remember what they're called.
Yeah, that one is good.
that's gonna be
George, let's talk about Kingdom Hearts.
I was hoping we did.
Is there a Little Mermaid world?
So the first game,
It's awful.
the first game has a Little Mermaid world where Sora's transformed into a mermaid, Goofy is transformed into a sea turtle, and Donald is transformed into an octopus.
Despite being a duck.
Correct.
That's the magic of Kingdom Hearts, baby.
And I know everyone hates this level. I don't. Because the controls are very odd. It's like circle to swim up, X to swim down, and you sort of have to align yourself in 3D space with whatever you're trying to fight. But you can just lock on, and he just like automatically swims to whatever you're fighting. I thought it was cool. I thought it was cool to do. It's different, but people hated it so much that in the second game, they took, instead of having a full underwater world, they had a Little Mermaid rhythm game where they just played a song and you just did a rhythm game, which was so much worse.
Why is Little Mermaid in it twice? I do want to earnestly discuss.
A lot of worlds are in it twice.
It's terrible.
Yeah, a lot of it in it twice.
Yeah,
And
a lot of
it's-
words are in it twice.
It's a popular one. I don't know whether to reveal this and shun myself, but I actually quite like Kingdom Hearts 2's Atlantica.
I
prefer it to the
hate
first one.
that song so much. It is so
I love
annoying.
it.
They
Yeah,
do,
Which is Spotify. The gym.
dude. It's wild. They do Under the Sea, great, love it. Then they do a new song. There's other Little Mermaid songs, and they're all good. But they wrote a new come and see.
Yeah, it's awesome. No, so much hate.
It's
so much
so
overblown hate.
One of the
annoying.
best soundtracks of all the Disney movies.
Just do 2 Little Mermaid songs. Don't write a new Little Mermaid song that sucks.
But the song where you fight Ursula is sick. I love it when like Sora's just talking over it. That's so good. Like I think
I do like that they put a boss fight in it.
yeah,
I thought
it's
that
just
was cool.
inventive.
Yeah.
I don't the problem with Atlantica in the first one is something that you and I do not agree on, and this will become a whole other thing if we get too deep into it. But the world design of Kingdom Hearts 1 is messy, to put it kindly.
You're
and
wrong.
I think Atlantica's the worst for that. I know we disagree on this. We've had
They're the
arguments
most
about it before.
interesting in the whole series.
They are interesting.
Everything
They
afterwards
are
turned
good
into one
ideas,
room, into the next
but
room,
they
into
are-
the next room.
Oh yeah, but that's fine. Better than Atlantica. Better than Deep Jungle. We move on.
Yeah, that's not where we'll talk about that another time. But you're wrong.
I've just looked it up. I've watched Little Mermaid so many times, and the new one, and the musical, and the theatre thing.
Yeah.
I've never heard it called Atlantica. That's just not a thing that I knew it was called. It is. I looked it up. It's called that in the movie, but I'd never heard of that.
Is it said in the movie? I didn't even know. But yeah,
I didn't know if it was a movie
I've
thing.
never heard it. I just googled, and it says the Little Mermaid is set in Atlantica.
Atlantica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's Triton, isn't it? So
Triton, yeah.
Yeah.
There's other water in Kingdom Hearts. There's pirates.
Yeah.
There's a boat.
Disney Infinity has a pirates as well.
You mentioned Astro. Astro has a phenomenal water level.
Bubbling Under.
Yeah. You get to swim like a dolphin and launch yourself out of the water. It's great.
Little penguin backpack. I love
your little penguin backpack.
Free Octodad.
Controversial, but I didn't like that level at all. I think it's probably Astro's worst.
I would have that in the top 5,
I think it's great. We've not been on the same page all day.
Yeah, I think maybe I just don't like water levels at all. I think this is Escort all over again, where I have a few good examples, and maybe I'm a hater.
I don't like the downside surprise in Astro, though. I think
that's the best one.
Else says
oh my god!
Best. Yeah, everyone else says that one's the best. I
think that level's really cool.
Damn.
Conceptually, it's fine. Conceptually, it's cool. In execution, I think it's fine. But I love Bubbling Under.
I have a couple examples here that are worlds themed as though they're underwater but are not, and I think these are both very cool. So Monster Hunter World has the Coral Highlands, which is a mountainous region that looks indistinguishable from the bottom of the ocean, and in fact it has like flying stingray and jellyfish. It's all covered in coral. It's as though you're walking on the seafloor, but it's just a world.
You're not swimming, yeah.
I think that's very cool. Similarly, Battle for Azeroth, a World of Warcraft expansion, had Vazshir, which was a bubble city at the bottom of the ocean. Very similar idea. I love both of those. Monster Hunter did do underwater one time. I believe it was Try, where you had to fight a fish guy underwater, and it sucked so hard, and they never did it again.
Well, maybe for the best.
Yeah, I don't know if they will in Wilds. We just saw a fish guy that you fight in the flooded. They're calling it the Crimson Jungle, I think, or another word for red. And it doesn't look like you're actually swimming, which I'm grateful for. Okay, Sonic is very well known for its water levels.
They're all. I don't like.
Yeah, not in a good way.
I'm not an expert on Sonic, so I think I've said it on this show before, but I don't like any of the Sonic levels.
Yeah, I know you guys don't. Maybe somebody listening does. I decided to pick my favorite, which is Hydro City Zone from Sonic 3. That's all we have to say about that.
Yeah.
Aquas from Star Fox 64. Trading. Okay.
Nintendo.
Well, instead of flying through space, you're flying underwater.
That's cool.
It's a cool level.
The Star Fox idea.
Yeah. How do we feel about Echo the Dolphin?
Badly.
I wouldn't have picked it for this. I think it's fine. I don't experience. I'd tell people to go and play, but I like it. I guess if I was asked, how do I feel about Echo the Dolphin, as I just have been, I'd probably say, yeah.
Am I on the opposite side of the world today? What? Echo sucks.
Echo's really interesting because it is so poorly tutorialized, and its mechanic is so foreign to anything else at the time or ever again that people. I would venture to guess that most people's experience with Echo is starting it, getting stuck at the very beginning, and never playing it again.
Yeah.
And that's a wild game. There's aliens in that game. That's a buck wild video game. Yeah. And most people are like, oh, I hate Echo, but they literally never figured out how to jump over the thing at the beginning. And so,
yeah, that is kid me talking. I've never given it the old college try now, but it used to be on every single.
Probably.
Yeah, it's this is the thing. Sega puts it in every single re-release collection they've ever done.
Yeah, classic stuff like that. Yeah, it will be.
I've always tried it. It's just clearly I didn't understand it. So maybe I was wrong about Echo.
How do we feel about On Guard from Donkey Kong Country? No thoughts?
I would not be able to tell you off the top of my head. Nope.
On Guard is the swordfish. So in Donkey Kong Country, you can become different animals like the rhino.
Yeah.
On Guard is when you become the swordfish. And go through the underwater levels.
I think it's fine.
No strong feelings.
Underwater level in Princess Peach as well, which is similar to that.
Returns.
I want to talk briefly about Ark. Ark has a very fascinating way of doing water because it's the entire process of playing Ark is expanding your horizons slowly. At the beginning, you're a naked guy on the beach.
I've got so much Astro in the brain. I thought you were talking about Ark the Lad.
I'm not talking about Ark
that
the
had
Lad.
And I was thinking
Ark Survival
Evolved. And what? How is it about? Yeah, you're talking about Ark with a K.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
Ark Survival Evolved.
Continue.
You begin Ark. We call them Beach Bobs, as a naked man with nothing but his fists. And as you survive and gather resources, you can do a lot more things. One of the earliest progression moments in that game is taming a raptor, and all of a sudden you can move around very quickly and cover a lot of ground. Eventually you tame a pterodactyl, and then you can fly to different islands and see more of the world, and you're just slowly becoming a master of your own domain as you progress through that game. And water, being able to go underwater, survive, and get the resources that are underwater is a really big milestone for Ark. It is not easily achieved. It takes a lot of preparation to be able to not get killed the second you start swimming around. And there's some of the most valuable, like basically you can get oil and you can get pearls for making electronics, and a lot of the like end game type resources that you need to become like have an advanced settlement, like to go into an advanced age, you need to get underwater, and it's very, very dangerous underwater. So I always thought that was a really cool part of Ark. There's so many cool parts of Ark for a game that's so bad.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
It
Good.
has a bad reputation in
general. Yes. Love it.
I've been very negative. Very
negative. You have.
Today. Unlike me.
Unsurprisingly. Unsurprisingly.
Whoa. Yeah,
Typical George.
We moved away from Rayman, and my spirit
we went to Crash. We went to Crash in Kingdom Hearts. What you want?
We have a few more. Maybe some of these will hit your ear, right? Let's talk about Soma. Wow. Nothing?
The submarine.
Yes, Soma's underwater horror game. Did you not play that one, George? Nope.
A rare George non-play.
Oh, it's a very cool game. Soma's a very cool game.
It rings a bell.
The parts where you are underwater, not that interesting, but as a whole, a very cool game. Subnautica.
Yeah.
George, you play much Subnautica?
Sure, you've played Subnautica.
Why is that? Why am I drawing a complete blank on Subnautica? Describe to me.
It's a survival game about being underwater.
Why can't I remember that?
They had a sequel that had a weird name.
No, I've never played that.
Below Zero.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then the new one, 3, is out next year, right?
That's it. That's what I remember because
we mentioned Abzu a couple of weeks ago, and it's like
Abzu. Cool.
It's like Abzu's, I don't know, edgy cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Subnautica's cool because it's so story driven. It's like a single player survival game, so it's unlike Ark. You're not telling your own story through your conquest of the world.
Yeah.
Like it has a narrative, and it's like you're swimming in a small area, and eventually you're building a submarine and exploring the deep, deep depths of the ocean.
I guess I wouldn't think of that or Soma for this because I don't think they're underwater levels. They're
underwater games. Yeah. On the subject of thalassophobia, Witcher 3 and the Drowners.
Yeah.
I think that does a really good job of making you fear the still water. I love those guys trying to yank you down whenever you're swimming. Not that there's a lot of reason to be swimming in The Witcher 3.
But I think we haven't really talked about like open world games where you just can go underwater, right?
Yeah.
Like when you talked about the Pirates level in Kingdom Hearts, I was saying, like Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Didn't even cross my mind. It doesn't have underwater levels.
Yeah.
But I love Black Flag. I love the underwater sections. They're really cool. And then you've got, a few different open world games where they allow you to swim, and you might find stuff like in the GTA, from GTA.
Yep, GTA was on my mind.
So but I wouldn't think of it having an underwater level. I know some missions. But
Yeah,
I
you
just
have
wouldn't
like the
think of it.
submarine ones, but
Yeah.
they also kind of
But yeah,
stink. So.
open world games. It used to be any, even vaguely open world game. You'd go to the docks or the pier or lake and you just die.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Okay, you're dead.
See if you can swim. Spider-Man jumps straight out. He's like, I don't like swimming. So okay, dude.
Yeah, Spider-Man, still does. Yeah.
They didn't program me to swim. It's like cool.
But yeah, I think open world games that use water is really cool. Like, I don't know, evolution of, or at least version of the underwater level. Not as thematic as like the Crash stuff or Kingdom Hearts or Rayman, but
Yeah.
cool use of the mechanics.
Which we've already talked about, but that was how the Horizon, I guess the expansion to number 2 sort of like was
The
trying
base
to
game
evolve
had water.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the big additions was...
And I guess technically Shadow, the Colossus, is that.
Yeah.
It's not all underwater, you're choosing to go underwater in the quest of the beasts.
Yes.
Colossi. Hydrus and Plagia, I remember.
Hydrus and Pelagia. Do we have any more? Any others?
I have
my other one.
A quick one that I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
Actually, I have two to mention.
One of them.
One I considered, but I also talked about it fairly recently. Uncharted. So Uncharted 3 has the ship level. I think I replayed that probably about 20 times growing up. Like, it was just so epic. Naughty Dog does.
Don't like that you said growing up about Uncharted.
I was
enjoy that sentence.
14. That was good. I think maybe I was young. Let's just say that. I just remember the bit specifically where you start going underwater, and then you're like Titanic climbing up doors and stuff. They're all swinging open. Just super cool. And then Uncharted 4 also had, you had the bit where you were driving the boat around the island.
Isn't it 4 as well?
Yeah, you have like the ship like graveyard bit. That's cool. And then the other game that came to mind, but I wouldn't call it my favorite. I just think I wanted to point out the water technology was Hydrophobia. Do you remember that one?
Nope.
I remember seeing it recently on Twitter when people were saying, "Look at the water levels in this compared to Star Wars Outlaws."
Oh well, I'm not. Yeah, nothing to do with that. It was a Xbox Live arcade game.
Yeah, I remember.
Really long time ago, and I only ever played the demo. But it was the sort of thing where the game itself was really bad, but the water
it had impressive
physics
tech.
alone.
I don't remember playing it very much myself. Actually.
Yeah, super cool. I don't know if even to this day I've seen water like nearly that good.
Yeah,
that might be hyperbolic.
Water is like very crisp these days. It looks wet, but like
Sea
actually
of
using
Thieves.
the mechanics of it.
Sea of Thieves has the best water in games. There we go. There's my mic drop moment.
Yeah, I mean,
there's nothing
it
underwater.
took some beating with my defensive.
It has the best looking water.
The best looking water.
Yeah.
Destiny had an entire underwater season. During Witch Queen, I think. Or was it Lightfall? It was Lightfall. And you would have to, it was the methane sea of Titan. And you would have to get bubbles like Sonic the Hedgehog so that you didn't, it wasn't that you drown. There was so much pressure from being so deep that your space helmet would start cracking. And if it cracked all the way, it would burst and you would die. So you'd have to get these bubbles underwater to keep you going. And it was sort of like, almost kind of like a roguelike thing where you'd see how deep you could go. The deeper...
That's cool.
The deeper you went...
I didn't know Destiny had done that.
Yeah. There would be like challenges and boss fights, and you could choose to stop or go deeper. And the deeper you went, the better the rewards were. It was interesting. It came with a dungeon... Strangers of the Deep, Creatures of the Deep, something. The worst dungeon.
Something of the deep.
Yeah, the worst dungeon ever. It is so long, and much of it is just traveling underwater from one arena to the next. There's more time like doing underwater stuff than there is doing the encounters. And in Destiny, like, I want to do the encounters and I want to get out because I have to do this every single week. I don't want to see the sights. Like, this isn't the time for that.
Yeah.
You know?
The low light in Lightfall's canon.
Yeah. Yeah. The worst part of the worst expansion. Let's go. We didn't talk about Zelda. Zelda is very well
Choosy
known.
by design. When
Yeah.
This isn't the show for that, I suppose, or the hosts for that. We didn't talk about Banjo.
which is a surprise with George around.
Yeah, Banjo came to mind. Platformers in general, I had a few.
We went for Rayman, yeah.
Yeah, Rayman was top. I think it was always going to be a platformer for me, but Ratchet and Clank, the first one, the level, the beach resort where you get the underwater gear.
Yeah,
I cannot remember. I think it's Pokataru. That's it.
So I guess there's
that's a big one.
Remember in Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, that took some reaching in my head to get, but lots of platformers. Banjo has some good ones.
Spyro's got some underwater stuff.
Yeah,
I love the way
in general.
I love the way Spyro swims. I love when he charges underwater.
But in the first one, that was another one. If you fell in the water in Spyro, you just went and you lost life. Like that's another thing that evolved as the game went on.
The best thing a sequel can do is teach its protagonist to swim.
Yeah,
that mic drop.
Yeah, quote me on that.
We also didn't talk about Metroid. Very big part of any Metroid game is when you get the gravity suit and you can actually move around in water. I guess that one's funny because it's like so obviously terrible to be underwater. You can't jump, you can't move, and then you get the gravity suit and now it's like the water doesn't even exist. Basically. So it's like sort of directly confronting the fact that underwater levels aren't fun because it's like
taking away the underwaterness of them.
Yeah. So that one's always interesting. Pokemon? Any thoughts about?
Oh yeah, and the town, Pelican Town.
Yeah,
I want to say.
I think so.
You swim underwater, and Ruby and Sapphire.
Yeah, when Dive became an HM.
Yeah. George is just learning Jersey.
Yeah. Now we're at the point where we're just naming things. So
there are a lot of water levels though.
There are. Yeah. Let's
I
name a game.
I had a long list.
Think of it.
Okay.
Need for Speed. Just name a random game.
Farming Simulator water level.
All right, then. If that's all, I think we should wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back next week with another episode of your favorite game. That was our favorite game with underwater levels, but now we want to know your favorite game with underwater levels. So leave us a comment, like, subscribe, hit the bell, and visit us at thegamer.com. That's The Gamer, no spaces.